Shiny, sexy, and deep colored metallics are some of my favorite things, and today I'm going to share my passion for creating them. I'll experiment using familiar materials and new and exciting techniques for results that will make you run to your supply cabinet and grab all the metallics you have. I'm Jackie Bernardi, and welcome to my studio. A little while back, I released a video where I created two beautiful metallic paintings in my tiny art journal. While those pages were drying and in between the layers, I kept working on other metallic papers, and those are the papers that I'm going to share with you right now. So I'm just starting off with my gel plate and some Nova paint gold, and this is an acrylic paint. I'm just putting it on my gel plate, going to roll it out, and then I'm going to put my herringbone leaf stencil on it. All I'm trying to do here is create a base layer for the paper. So I'm putting down a piece of old gel plate paper I had that just had a brown pull on it. And the herringbone metallic over it looks pretty neat. But again, this is just a base layer for something that's coming later. So as I'm always experimenting, I thought it would be interesting to see what interference paints might do to this piece of paper as the layers build up. I just put on some of Golden Paint's Interference Violet and Interference Green Blue, or Blue Green. And I'm putting down the stencil again, but this time horizontally, because I want to get as much texture as I can. And when I pull this off, it'll be hard to see the interference because there's nothing dark on it yet, but you will see it later. And to really have that interference paint and the gold metallic underneath it come out, I am going to go over the gel plate now with a mixture of Payne's Gray fluid acrylic and black acrylic ink. And I'm not really sure how well this is going to work out. I hope it doesn't separate too much, but I want to get that really, really deep color. But I also wanted it to be a little more wet than maybe just the acrylic paint would have been. I'm going to set this off to dry, and while I do that, I'm going to grab another gel plate and just lay down some golden fluid acrylic in Payne's Gray mixed with black Liquitex acrylic. And that's going to create a really nice, rich blue color, which I want as a base. I don't really care about this being a solid base. And in fact, I'm really liking that the piece of paper has a lot of paint texture on it. But what I'm really digging is this gel plate. And so I'm just using a spare piece of paper and pulling off a little bit more paint so we can start playing. Now this is some acrylic ink and in silver and also in gold. And I'm laying that over the still kind of damp acrylic paint below. And I'm just going to move it around with the paint shaper. I'm not using the brayer this time, just the paint shaper. I'm loving this dreamy kind of quality that the paint is creating. So I'm going to let that dry to maybe do a pull later with it. And here, this is just a regular piece of newsprint. And I'm going to put down a layer of this black acrylic paint again, and this time I am going to mix it with some Thalto Blue, which is Golden's fluid acrylic, and it makes a really lovely acrylic paint on the paper. And I'm just going to move it around with a brush. I'm not looking for perfect coverage or perfect lines. I like the texture that comes from a brush. And I'm just going to fill in as much as the paper as I can. And again, this is just for background. Now, while it's still wet, I'm going to use the catalyst wedge to move the paint around and make it a little more even for the background. and also to get off some of the excess paint that I had on the paper. I'm taking that excess paint and I'm doing this technique that I discovered, I think it was during the neutrals mark making video, but I discovered that if I pull the catalyst wedge lightly over the paper, it skips in a way that makes a texture that resembles snakeskin, and I love that. I'm interested in using this, this acrylic medium paint paste. I don't really know what to call it, but it is called Lunar Paste. And this is in a very bright gold. And what I want to do is I want to apply this to the dark blue and black paper that we just painted out. And I'm going to do it with my palette knife and over the stencil. This is a textural medium, so when this gold dries, it will be raised off the surface of this dark blue-black paper. And I really like that patterning, that geometric patterning. This is another stencil I have. I like the idea of having different textures on this paper. That way I can use this one sheet of paper in a lot of different projects. Yeah, I think that looks pretty cool. And I have one more stencil that I'm going to lay down on it. This is my ginkgo stencil. And I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing, push the paste through with a palette knife. And Again, I'm not looking for perfect texture here. I don't want everything to be flat and even. I want there to be some gaps in the leaves. I want there to be some variation on the depth, because that will all come out and make it even more beautiful when we continue to put things over it later. Now these stencils, everything I have that I'm working with today, I've linked to in the description below, so you can grab it if you're interested. So now I am going back to the gel plate where we mix the acrylic paint with the inks right on the plate. And you can see that they kind of pulled away from one another. That was interesting. I wasn't expecting it to pull away that much, but I don't mind it because that is dried, and that's going to create a really interesting texture as we do the gel pulls later. So I'm just going to roll it out a little bit. I want the metallics to mix with the acrylics, but not completely. I like having some variation there. And again, just a regular piece of copy paper. I'm just going to lay it down there. I'm going to put some pressure on it with the Baron. And I'm going to pull this print right away because I want to see what that metallic did and what possibilities I have with that, instead of doing a dry pull of the print. Okay, putting that to the side. Now I'm taking some of this teal colored acrylic ink, and I am actually spraying some of Seth Apter's ink spray in antique pewter. I'm not sure. Check in the description. And I am just pulling that with the catalyst wedge all over this, I'll just call it the snakeskin paper. The snakeskin paper. And I love what's happening here. The blue is reading really silvery blue because of that ink spray, which is a metallic ink spray. And it's creating a really beautiful lift in the blue-black that's on the base, as well as filling in some of the white of the paper. I like the variation. I like what's happening. And I'm just throwing on some more silver ink here to see how that works with everything we have going on. I like that. It's kind of filling in some of the rawness and making it more cohesive. Okay, so back to the texture piece. I love this piece. And I feel like I want to make it a little bit lighter. And if you've seen any of my other videos where I have any metallic paint, I usually have this Nova Super Fine Gold. It's a beautiful color, and it's unusual amongst gold metallics, and it just does beautiful things. So all I'm doing here is pulling it across the texture, and I'm pulling it really tight with this catalyst wedge because I don't want too much paint staying on top. I'm more interested in it settling into the recessed areas between the texture. And if you can see that, it's turning almost tarnished gold. I guess that's what I want to say about it. So I'm not so much looking for a brown type feeling with the gold. So I went ahead and I added some more of the Payne's Gray on the top to kind of bring out that cooler, it's not really a cooler metallic, but I just wanted it darker and more blue than brown. I'm just hitting it here with some alcohol. There's a lot of paint on here right now, and I do want to pick some of that up. Sometimes I would use water for that, but the truth is this is just newsprint and it wasn't gessoed when I started. So I don't want to use water because I don't want it really to soak all the way through. So alcohol will evaporate very quickly. Make sure you're in a well-ventilated area if you're going to be using alcohol, but it does a nice job of pulling back some of the paint and revealing some of the texture, the gold texture that's below. And I like that a lot, but it's not popping as much as I want. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to use some of this superfine gold, and with my finger, I'm just going to rub it very lightly over the texture so that it seeps into the low points and makes the high points pop even more. Oh, I love that. I love that. Can you see? See all the texture variation and the metallic in there? I can't wait to use this. I really can't wait to use this. In fact, I may have to do something very, very soon with this because it's begging me to. And these ginkgo leaves are making me crazy. Oh, I love that. All right, so now we're back to this pull. If you recall, I pulled this very quickly off the gel plate. I didn't want it to dry on the gel plate. I just wanted to get this metallic background. And this could not be easier. All I am doing is pulling that super fine gold over the top of this dark base layer. That is it. And as I pull it over in different directions, it's pulling up, it's creating, visually it's creating different textures, and this is just stunning. I love this. Oh my gosh. I would love an entire wall in my house of this. Or a ceiling. How spectacular would that be? Oh my gosh. I love that. And going back to the snake skin paper, I am going to use that super fine gold again because I'm having a lot of fun with it today. And I'm just going to go over, there's no real texture on this paper. There really isn't, but the paint shaper is just skipping over the base layers just enough to give the appearance of texture. And look at that, that's wild. I don't know what that looks like, but it looks like something, and it's delicious. Oh my gosh. This superfine gold is magnificent. It turns everything just gorgeous. Oh. All right, so I am going back to the gel plate, the first gel plate that we put down, and that had the herringbone gold stencil. And look at that. This was the one with the iridescent, and the iridescents are hard to pick up on camera, but if I move this around just slowly enough, you might see it. In person, it's spectacular. You can really see the iridescence in there. So you've got the iridescence and the gold combined together. It's fabulous. So let's take a look at what we did today. See how fast that was? See how easy that was? And we've got 4 spectacular papers, starting with this texture paper that has the gold paste on it that is literally textured. And then we're moving on to the piece of paper that has no texture at all and looks like it has tons of it. And that's just the metallic settling in and over the dark base paint layer. And the snake skin, you know how much I love this. I've already shared my passion for this piece of paper. This is going to be one of those pieces of paper that I'm going to have a hard time using, and I'm going to have to force myself to use it because I love it so much. And then finally, the herringbone leaf print. That was many layers of metallic and iridescent and dark paints and light paints. Really beautiful. This was the one that started off as brown paint. And look how gorgeous this became in no time at all. I hope you have enjoyed watching me put together these metallics. I hope you put together some metallics because it's the perfect recipe of a really fun day in the studio. Thank you so much for being with me.